But it gets to the point where we're on Tinder. I'm like, I just want to know what this person's like to have sex with. Honestly, it's just strict. Like, it's becoming almost a curiosity. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm very just more open about sexuality than I ever have been.
That's what I'm talking about. I like to move when ya. I like to move when ya. I like it smooth when ya. I like to move when ya. Let me see you move that thing, don't break that frame.
Hi, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell, and welcome to my podcast called Distraction. And I am honestly and truly thrilled to welcome Krystyna Hutchinson and Corinne Fisher to our show. These two women are really breaking new ground. They are going where no woman has gone before. They have put together a podcast that is shot to the top of the iTunes list. They are absolutely delightful. And the name of their podcast, just be ready, is Guys We've Fucked. And I just got off the phone with my wife. I said, guess who I'm going to interview? The hosts of Guys We've Fucked. And she cracked up. And I hope you're laughing as well. It's wonderful to welcome these real paradigm shifters, trend breakers, trend makers, and, trying to tease us into having honest discussions about one of man's favorite and woman's favorite subjects, human sexuality. So welcome to the show.
What an intro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like, who's coming on?
Yeah, who are you getting? Who's your guest?
Great.
Really, should I move over?
No, and there are two comedians from New York City who will tell the story. How did you come up with this?
Oh, the old guys we fucked story.
The origin story. Corinne and I have been working together for about 5 years at the time, just doing various projects as a comedy duo and doing stand-up separately. And she got dumped by the love of her life in a Panera Bread, as you do. And I think out of that, it's like, you've ever been through yourself where you've seen somebody go through like the worst breakup ever? That was that. That was Corinne with this breakup. And so she texted me one day a little bit afterwards, and she said, we should just interview Guys We Fucked. We do it for a podcast, and we'll just call it Guys We Fucked. And I was like, yes, done. Let's do it. There you go. Now we're here.
And how did you persuade these guys to come on the show?
Oh man, a lot of ass kissing from me, from my end.
Well, I mean, it was easier in the beginning. Like, it's become harder because in the beginning, when you're recording a podcast, everyone's kind of like, oh, no one's going to listen to this. This is going to be fine. Like, this will be secret.
Yeah.
This will just be a Facebook post that goes away.
Yeah, no one will.
Yeah, and so the first person we asked was a gentleman named Vinny, and I just knew that he was the perfect person to ask because he was a comic. He'd be cool, and he's laid back. I was like, and he was honored, and it was wonderful.
He was honored.
Yeah, he was so honored.
Had you actually?
Oh yeah, we had fucked.
Fucked
multiple times. But yeah, and he was someone who was kind of like there through the breakup, so he got like the very worst version of me, and still was so kind. So that was nice. And then Krystyna added the anti-slut shaming part to it, and then it kind of evolved into something a lot more than just interviewing. Because my idea was like, well, let me learn more about myself, and you can learn more about yourself by interviewing people who you've had these most intimate relationships with. Because I feel like sometimes you're sharing a year, 2 years, 5 years with someone, and they know you the best, like in quotes, but you never really have that deep conversation that maybe you would have with like a parent or even a best friend. So it's good to get feedback about yourself to become a better person. That was my idea. I love some constructive criticism. So
what sort of feedback did they give you?
Oh my God. Well, the second episode was one of my guys who was not a performer of any sort. So we gave him a fake name of Nico because he just was a little nervous to talk about sex under his full name, which I understood. And we ended things because he stopped talking to me and he unfriended me on all the social media platforms. And I was like kind of falling in love with him, but he was seeing someone else. It was very complicated, but we had slept together on and off for about a year and a half. So when we recorded and he came to the studio, that was the first time I had seen him in 3 years. And I had so many questions. So for me, a lot of the guys that I've been interviewing, that I had interviewed, I wanted to know what was going on because I'm not used to communicating very honestly with the people that I'm physically the closest with, which is odd. And then what Corinne was saying about these people are the closest you'll ever be to another human. And then once you break up, it's like they're strangers. And that's so makes me so sad. And it's like a death of that relationship. So there's a little bit of part of me that wanted to rekindle that and just relive in that happiness or that crush or that love that we had. And so that for me, it wasn't more feedback. It was more what happened.
So it was more emotional than sexual.
Oh yeah, it was definitely emotional. I mean,
Not that sexual and emotional.
No, the idea was to call it "Guys, We Fucked" because I mean we're not stupid. We want people to listen to the show, and that was and then also it wasn't just people we had relationships with, so it couldn't be like ex-boyfriend's show. Like it was truly even people we had, like a one-night stand with or slept with for a year, like a fuck buddy. Because I mean, those people you do have some sort of a relationship with, and I think there's interesting questions to be asked there too. Like, why did this never become something more? Mm-hmm. But what we learned was like a lot of times people would come on, and I think in a relationship sometimes we just both assume something about the other person, like what the other person was feeling and why it happened. And then you come on and you actually talk about it. And you're like, well, I thought you were thinking this. You're like, no, I thought you were thinking this. And then you're like, well, why do we even break up in the first place? We were just both insecure about the other person's feelings. And this is a big old mess. But it's kind of funny and nice and comforting to laugh about it later.
So you discover all the misunderstandings and miscommunication.
Oh, man. One guy, Adam, I brought him on, and I thought he dumped me, but he said I dumped him. I'm like, there's no way to dump you. You're so hot and perfect. Like, I was obsessed with you, and you were always the one that, like, got away in my head. He's like, no, you dumped me. I'm like, oh, shit.
Maybe you did it for, like, to protect
because
yourself.
Because I was scared of him wanting to And it's just like, communicating with someone, it sounds scary, but it feels so good to be honest with somebody. And I think my level of honesty with people in general, let alone the person who is my partner, has gotten so much better. Because I think Corinne's always been honest with people, and I'm more of a people pleaser, so I really had to get over the fear of disappointing people.
So since you started the show, you've become more honest with people in general.
Yes. And my boyfriend is I've been with him since before the podcast. And
so 2 years.
We've been together for almost 5.5 years now.
So you're running out of people that you've effed.
Well, we fucked, you mean? No, actually, one of my ex-boyfriends from Florida is moving back to New York City and said he would do the podcast. There's a couple guys that were hesitant. And then now I think they just want to do it because it is popular. But
which is a fine reason.
Then I'll take it. I don't care.
It, yeah.
But my boyfriend had dated a famous porn star right before me, and that was we had this game at the beginning of our podcast where every time Corinne brought up Frank or the ex, take a shot. And then every time I brought up Stoya, who was the porn star that my boyfriend dated before me, you take a shot. And I was so
drunk.
So I wasn't drunk.
Oh no, we weren't drinking. No, the listeners were drinking. We can't. We can't. Drinking during the Guys We Fuck podcast is pretty dangerous. Yeah. You never know what'll come out.
But yeah, I had to learn to be honest about how insecure I felt about following a porn star, and when in reality I was just like projecting my insecurity as anger onto him. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm doing this thing where I feel bad. So it helped me identify some issues and communicate better for sure.
Tell our listeners, people listening, I'm sure, are very curious. But what are some of the things you've learned that are sort of reassuring, or what could people accept about themselves that maybe they're insecure about accepting?
Well, I mean, I think everyone is carrying around this huge weight of shame on their shoulders and some things are so little when you read them on out loud on a podcast, and then you're like, I can't believe you haven't done X for your whole life just because you feel this shame over someone calling you fat in the 8th grade. Yeah. Like, it's honestly something that's, and sometimes it's something huge, and sometimes, their parent was a pedophile, or they were raped, or they were sexually, molested. Those are huge things.
But it's usually something trivial.
Yeah, a lot of times it is, and it's just astounding to me, especially I think because I've never really let shame or like someone else's opinion of something stop me from doing something. And it really like it breaks my heart that people are not living their lives to the fullest because of something some idiot said a long time ago that just like stayed with them. We harbor so much like
shame
and caring about what other people think, and that's just no way.
So as kids, probably most people get these messages around sex that it's somehow shameful or dirty or shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
And that's why what you're doing is so cool, because you're just trying to blow that up and say, come out of hiding, anything between consenting adults should be okay,
Absolutely. And I think we came to the podcast like I was very ashamed about sex, my sexuality at the beginning of the podcast, just because when I was 15, I lost my virginity to my boyfriend. And when I told my mom about it, we were in a restaurant. She had asked me if I had had sex yet without ever giving me a talk about it. And I didn't want to lie. And I said yes. And she walked out of the restaurant and didn't talk to me for days. And she abandoned me. And then we did this podcast. And I finally told her a little bit what it was about. I didn't tell her the title. And then she brought up to me that she was molested by the dad who she babysat for when she was a teenager. And in that moment at the restaurant when she walked out, she was just so afraid that that was going to happen to me because I'm now a sexual being entering this world, and she was so scared for me. Could have told me that when I was 15, Ma.
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating what and the emails that we get, and when we have live episodes and people come up on stage, a lot of times the answers to their problem is just talking about it.
Yeah.
Just bringing it up.
Just talk about it.
They come and they're like, oh, this is this whole situation, and I really want to do this with my boyfriend, and like, how do I let him know? I'm like, well,
and this would be like what?
A threesome, or that's been a popular one because Christyna's been talking about threesomes. But like, it's just we're like
watching
looking at each
porn
other
together, even
watching porn. Okay.
Yeah, and they tell us so eloquently exactly what they want to do and how they're feeling.
Right.
And then Krystyna and I will look at each other and be like,
Tell
"Well,
it to
you
the
know what?
guy.
You just told us to tell that to the person who you're having sex with. Like,
And
are
they've
you
been
joking?
holding this secret.
Yeah,
because they're
why are you
ashamed.
telling me? I'm not going to have sex with you.
I know. And a lot of times they're like, oh, yeah. Like, it didn't even occur to them because that option scared them so much.
Is it mostly women? Or
No, it's
men?
It's honestly 50-50.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I mean, I think guys love that they have the opportunity to just, message to young women and be like, this is a problem I'm having. Please tell me.
Right.
And we're also kind of like, we're not like supermodels. We're just like regular people who are living in the real world.
Right.
We're not like
Yeah.
celebrities.
We're not unreachable whatsoever.
Yeah. We're super accessible.
I just those listening. I just met these two women, and they are just as described. They're very accessible.
That's like a nice way of saying not wearing makeup.
Don't do anything.
No. I mean it as a high praise. They're genuine, which is my highest praise. I mean, they're not in any way fake or phony, and I think that's part of your message, right?
Yeah. And I think when we hear things about sex and sexuality, a lot of times it's coded in bullshit.
Right.
And I think for one of the first times for the people who listen to our podcast who like just cling to it so much, it's like, oh, I've never heard people talk about sex without this bullshit air of I am better than you, or any condescension of any kind.
Right.
It's nice to hear two people talk about it, and then as a result, they tell us things that they've never told anybody in their emails to us.
Right.
A lot of people have been raped or molested.
Really?
And I've never told a single person about it.
Yeah.
More than I thought. Wow. So that made me...
Well, it's an easy crime to commit because no one talks about it. So imagine if you can commit a crime knowing that no one's going to say anything about it out of fear and shame. Wow, that's the one I'm going to pick.
Yep. Yeah, it's horrifying.
How about, short of something drastic and dramatic like that, what are other typical secrets or insecurities that...
A lot of people, I think, are concerned about like their sex life going stale or losing attraction to their partner who they still really love and cherish as a person, but just maybe are not feeling that, special spark for anymore.
And what advice would you give them?
I mean, I think people are just like, you need to be able to spice it up in a way, like introduce something new, or go out and be like, we're going to go to the gym together. Because I mean, people want to pretend that there's nothing important about aesthetics, but like that is a big part about attraction. Especially men are very visual people, so taking care of yourself on the outside is part of taking care of yourself. And it's, I don't know. It just is.
And it's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
And do things that feel like I love doing things in my sex life that feel exciting and little like, ooh, edgy.
A little naughty.
And the beginning of my relationship with my boyfriend now, that was watching porn. Was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Is someone watching us?
Yeah, we're watching porn together. This is weird. And then it graduates to whatever we feel like doing. And like we do things like one time we went to a sex club. It did not go well, but it was still fun. And even if it doesn't go well, at least it's funny and you can joke about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the end of the world.
So there's nothing forbidden. There's nothing you're embarrassed to tell him.
No, really not. And he was always been so honest with me and upfront with me, almost uncomfortably, because I'm like, how? You're going to tell me that? Wow. And he's not afraid to show his full self to me, like every side of himself. And I really respect that. And I think having a partner that you respect and admire is so important.
You know, we think of insecurities around women and how they look, but I think men are a lot more insecure than they maybe sometimes tell you.
Oh,
absolutely, absolutely.
I didn't know guys were insecure about
penis size. Oh my God.
That I figured.
We knew that.
Which is funny because women really, I mean, penis size is something that we take into account, but it's never a deal breaker. It's never been a deal breaker for me.
That's what I've always thought.
There's so many other ways to please a woman. Like I don't know.
There are women out there, I'm sure, who really want big penises, and
that's fine. Yeah,
but that's not the majority.
It's not the majority. No.
We've had a girl. We just interviewed a girl, Katie, who was like, "I don't like guys with huge penises," and I'm sure, I'm like, good, say that because I feel like a lot of people will be happy to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think more times than I think we've had more experience where we've looked at someone's penis and been like, "That's too big."
Way too big.
I think I can only think of one time when I was like, that's too small, but like it didn't stop me from having sex. Like a penis that was too big has stopped me from having sex before because I was like, that's not going in. That's not
the only one night stand I almost had, I had to leave because I was like, nope, that ain't fitting.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, I kind of felt bad for the guys. I'm like, I feel like a lot of girls might have that reaction and kind of run away because your penis is horrifyingly huge.
Yeah.
And how about overly musculated? I mean, can that be a turnoff? Or
I personally don't like muscular, but I know a lot of people who do.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I've never had a huge muscular guy try to hit on me and me had to be like, no, you know what, not today.
Too many muscles, right?
Your definition I can see too well, and I don't like that.
Muscular guys don't hang out in the Twizzler aisle, so they couldn't find me.
Bad thing about them. Yeah.
They weren't at the McDonald's line, so they didn't see me.
So for the men out there listening, what about men turns you on the most?
You know,
sense of humor.
Yes, sense of humor, honesty, and caring. I know that sounds so lame, but that's what's so sexy about my boyfriend. And it's 5.5 years in, and I'm more attracted to him than I was when I first met him because he is over 5.5 years really proven to me that he is such a good man, and he gives a shit and he cares and he's hardworking and he cares about himself. Somebody who will take care of themselves and they're not living for you.
Right.
Because that's never going to be a successful partnership, I don't think.
If they're putting you on a pedestal and
like don't go to the gym for me, go to the gym for yourself because you want to feel healthy, because you want to better your life. Like someone who wants to better their life, it's so hot.
Really?
Yeah.
I would like someone to go to the gym also for me though.
I mean, it's a dual reason, I'm sure.
And how about better the lives of others? Is that
absolutely. I mean, I think you can just reference 21 Things I Want in a Lover by Alanis Morissette, and then I think she hit the nail on the head there. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Does anything surprise you anymore?
Well, in terms of what?
In life.
Like someone will pop out of that door. I'm like, whoa. In emails or in
emails or in conversations or.
Well, it used to surprise me that so many people didn't have honest conversations with their partners. Yeah. And now it surprises me. Like, we got an email from a guy, because I've been asking for it. I'm like, statistically, somebody who has raped somebody or wants to rape somebody listens to this podcast. There's too many people for that not to happen.
Right.
Write us. Tell us what you don't have. Use a fake email. I just want to know. We know so much about how it feels to get raped and what the consequences are emotionally and to what that does to your soul. But we don't know. We have not heard from the rapist.
Yeah.
And we got email. We got one email that's from a guy who can't stop thinking about drugging and raping this family friend of his. And he has a wife, and he just explained his situation, and I just wrote him back and I asked him a bunch of questions and he answered it. It surprised me that he was that honest, honestly. And then when we read that email, it's like, I know if we read this email, we're going to get an email from somebody else with a similar situation. And then we got an email from a guy who rapes his fiance. They have consensual sex, but he also rapes her, and he described it as blacking out. Like he becomes this monster of a person that he hates, and he hates himself afterwards. And he just gave us all this detail. And I was honestly like, thank you for being honest about that. It surprised me, but I was also very thankful that at least he's telling us.
It's interesting. For one of the podcasts, I interviewed a man who's getting his PhD in sociology at Yale, and he's writing his dissertation on the history of sexual mores. Before Christ. So before St. Paul mucked it all up and made us all feel ashamed.
That asshole.
Right, exactly. Before all that, way back in Roman times, where did sexual mores come from? He said it's all about domination. That at the core of sexual drive is the desire to dominate. And it was funny, though, because I asked him, he happened to be married, and I said, now in your own marriage, is it all about domination? And he got a little nervous. He said, well, not exactly. If anything, she's dominant. So
Was it sexual dominance from both sexes or just the men?
He said it's male domination. And that didn't ring true to me. So that's why I pressed him on it a little bit. I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think in sex there is sort of contesting with each other. In other words, it's not
There's
wrestling.
roles,
But I think it's not about domination. It's about coming together, literally.
Right.
Well, yeah, in a relationship, when you're having intercourse during a relationship, I think that's absolutely what it's about. I think honestly, women have like the more of the power as far as sexuality is concerned.
Yes.
Just like because it's even as a straight woman, I can say like I'd rather look at a naked woman than a naked man. That's just more aesthetically pleasing, I think, to most people.
And most nudes are of women, not of men.
Yeah, it's just a better form.
Worlds. I mean, I mean, they're powerful.
Yeah, and then whereas like in the bedroom, I think a lot of times the woman is more submissive as far as like during the act. Right. But I don't know. But yeah, I think the woman is holding more power, which kind of makes rape like it makes sense why that is happening because when a man who is statistically it's more often men raping women
way more
it's a crime of control. So it's like they've kind of lost control of the power in the sexuality struggle, and so they're going to take it back.
What in your as you've done this wonderful service through this podcast, what are the common inhibitions that you think people could let go of? What are the secret desires that you've heard people talk about that they don't dare tell their partner?
Well, I mean, with inhibitions,
opening up a relationship.
That
a common one.
I mean, inhibitions. I think a lot of people are just really insecure about their bodies, and like I think honestly, like people have a good idea of what you look like when your clothes are on. Right. So like if you take your clothes off,
are you really just whip it out?
Just own it because there's nothing more unattractive than feeling it's like someone who's visibly not comfortable with their body. Yeah. Like if you're heavy, you have a scar, you have some weird hair. Just be cool with it. Yeah. And then I think most times the other person's going to react with like, well, they're cool with it, so I'm cool with it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's sort of true of your personality as well. If you're comfortable being who you are, you don't have to put on airs, try to be smarter, try to be richer, try to be whatever. Yeah. If you can be comfortable being who you are, then people are going to like that. I mean,
they will because it's genuine.
Exactly.
And you don't get a lot of that in like television, for example, or something.
People often say you have to love yourself. I think that term has been way overdone in mental health. I know a lot of people who love themselves who shouldn't.
I hear you.
But I think the goal is to like yourself enough that you can be genuine. Mm-hmm. To be at home enough with yourself that you can be real.
Yeah.
Well, sex is raw and bare, and if you're someone if you're wearing this like mask of somebody else, it's going to be very awkward to have sex with that person.
Yeah, and I would have sex in especially my early 20s and my teens, where it's like I didn't care about any of my pleasure at all. It was all how I looked to the guy, how I was moving, because that came from porn, and his pleasure. And then you're like, oh yeah, I can come too. How about that? But every sexual relationship, it's interesting, is so, every pairing of two people is so unique. Like one boyfriend I had, I was the dominant one in bed, and then the boyfriend that I have now.
And what does that mean, dominant? You were on top? Or
I was just more...
you were directing?
Yeah, just more like not choking and stuff, but like he would want me to hit him. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, this is fun. I like this. And he liked it. Yeah, slap him in the face a little bit. Nothing too rough, but just a little bit of roughness. And I was the aggressor in our sexual relationship. And with my boyfriend now... He's the aggressor because that's what just makes sense with our dynamic. I could never imagine me hitting him in the face.
An aggressor meaning what do you like him to do?
I just like him taking control and like throwing me down and teasing me for an hour and just telling me what to do. I really like that, but that was not the sexual relationship I had with other guys in the past at all. But you can switch roles. That's what I kind of like about sexual partnerships is they're all very unique.
And they can be changing and evolving.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely. And then when you bring other people into it, like we kind of started toying with the idea of three-ways, and we've had 2 3-ways together. And it gets to the point where Thrinder is a 3-way app. It's Tinder for 3-ways.
Thrinder.
Yeah. And that's how we found a lot of the girls. And but sometimes there's couples.
How do you pick the third?
With just a lot of you look, at first it's all aesthetics because all you're seeing is a photo, and then you get to know them, and then we always meet them in person with the expectation of this is strictly going out for a drink or a cup of coffee. Right. Just so we can get to know each other. We want to make sure we like them as people.
And is it always a woman?
So far it has been. We've gone on dates with couples that did not end well. Just because you guys are douches. But it gets to the point where we're on Thrinder. I'm like, I just want to know what this person's like to have sex with. Honestly, it's just strict. Like it's becoming almost a curiosity. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm very just more open about sexuality than I ever have been because of talking about it.
So where does monogamy? What do we do with this monogamy thing?
I mean, it depends. I mean, I think I started the podcast with more against monogamy than I am now. I think that also has to do with me becoming a more public person. So now to me, privacy and monogamy are actually more valuable than they were before, because that's something that I don't get to experience as much anymore. Like everything is so out there.
So you have a boyfriend?
Yeah, and so now I couldn't. I mean, we've been dating for it'll be a year in a couple months, and right now I can't imagine opening it up just because I would feel too vulnerable, but not in a good way. Not a good vulnerable.
So, but other than threesomes, the two of you are monogamous.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm 5.5 years in, and I've proposed the idea. I'm like, Steven, maybe we just, if you want to fuck that girl, you can fuck that girl. It's okay.
And that would be okay with you?
Yes, it would be. But I also have a cuckolding fetish. So, yeah, of course it'll be okay with me. It'll be more than okay with me.
Now, what's a cuckolding fetish?
I like the idea of him with another woman. And that was something that I wanted to have. That was my favorite hope for the first threesome we had was I just want to see you with another woman and get off on that, and I did.
So seeing it,
is not or not hearing about it too would be really
so hearing about him having an affair was a turn on.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's also because I want control because I've been cheated on twice and it broke me as a person. So I want control over it. I'm like, maybe that's where that comes from. I'm not.
But is knowing that he will come back to you?
Yeah.
Part of so that's.
Oh yeah.
So part of you don't want to risk losing him.
No, and I just we're so tight and we're so close, and I just know that would never happen. But he does not feel comfortable opening it up because he doesn't drink. He doesn't do he doesn't go to a bar. I mean, it's kind of hard to meet people when you don't socialize just in the everyday places that you meet.
Can you relate to that, Corinne? The cuckold fetish? I've never heard that term before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talk about it all the time. I definitely I'm interested in that. It's just I think it's just different points in the relationship. That's something that I would have been comfortable with other people who I've dated longer. Yeah. But yeah, in the beginning, and also we always talk about I would never tell people to rush things. When my first boyfriend who I dated for 5 years in college, we did so much so quickly. He was also 7-8 years older than me. So now it was I did all these crazy stuff peeing, on people. And so then it's almost now I'm in I'm with someone who is like a former whore. I don't know. We're both like former whores in the best way. And we're like, let's just take it super slow and be like super boring.
Now,
so
former
then we have
whore
so
means, did you get paid for sex?
No, gosh, I wish.
Right.
I wish
Right? You could have got paid that whole time.
I made good decisions. No, we were just people who were like super promiscuous and like
Sexually explorative.
yeah, we say sexually explorative, but then I'm like, I don't like use the words. Don't have any stigma for me. Whore and slut doesn't mean anything.
So you're just
bad.
using it to blow up the stigma around the word.
Yeah,
whore.
we were just people who have had a lot of sex with
Right.
a lot of people
Right.
for all of our 20s. We've done every crazy thing that you can do, or I mean, not that you can do, that we want to do.
Right. Right.
And now we're just like, let's just like be boring and really like work it slow and work up to it. And especially if it's someone who you think that you're going to be with for a long time, like I don't want to rush anything because then in 5 years, what am I going to have to do?
Right.
I don't need to take it slow. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start shitting on people.
Yeah, you're never going to get to that point.
You never want to get there.
Because you get pink eye, all kinds of diseases.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
It's really aesthetically unappealing.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
the one
pretty
thing that I can't
bad.
get on board with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on moral
promote.
grounds, just aesthetic
Yeah,
grounds.
well, I'm a little OCD with cleanliness, like as far as like hygienic cleanliness. So I can't. I wash my hands too many times for that. I would feel
Wash your hands for the rest of your life if you get shit
yeah,
on.
I would be like Lady Macbeth, like just keep washing my hands, like ah.
So as much as your podcast is about sex, sounds like your lives are pretty stable in terms of a relationship.
Oh, we're the most normal comedians we know. That's a joke that we
Yeah.
have.
And like I'm genuinely like a happy person.
We're like just boring for comedians.
Yeah.
Are
Nothing crazy
most
dramatic.
comedians pretty unstable
Oh
types?
God, yes.
A lot of them are. My
Yeah.
mom was unstable, and that's why I attribute my desire to be a comedian. But I'm thankful for that.
Where does your desire, both of you, to be a comedian, what's that all about?
I mean, I think it's like anything I'm going to do, I want to be the best at it. So I mean, the only thing I was ever really like good at was writing and then making people, like my friends or people at the lunch table, laugh. And I was like, well, how can I turn this into something? My dad was really funny. My dad is he owns a baseball card store in New Jersey, and he would come home and over dinner every night tell us these hilarious stories about his customers and completely improvised, so much so that I had to excuse myself on multiple occasions because I was going to choke because I was laughing so hard. Like, you know that kind of laughter where you're like, you can't even touch me. I got to roll around for a second. And that's just the purest form of joy for me. Nothing makes me happier than either laughing really hard or making someone else laugh really hard. And I was like, why would I not want to just do this for the rest of my life? Plus, I have a lot of opinions and I like talking. Yeah. So I'm like, stand-up comedy is great. You just get on a microphone. Everyone else has to shut up. And then you get paid for kind of just having a breakdown. It's really great.
Tricked you.
Same for you, Krystyna? I mean,
No, mine was, similar. Mine was more, Mom was always very sad. But the bipolar thing was she was truly like so happy and joyous, and I would treasure those moments because I'm just naturally such a happy person. And then when she was sad, I still to this day get so sad. And like even as a child, I had to, in a way, parent my parent. And so when I was times and when she was upset that I would make her laugh, or I would treasure and hold on to that so much. I would always just be trying to make her laugh. And to what Corinne was saying earlier about like laughing with your family, my parents have such opposite senses of humor. My dad's this sarcastic dude, and my mom is just this kind, pure, sweet, innocent sense of humor. But we'll have time. Every time when I'm home, we just laugh. That's all we do. And so many bad things have happened to my mom and my dad that we handle tragedy with humor, and that's like the best way you could possibly handle it. Like what probably the worst thing that's happened to me was right before I moved to college, my mom was on a medication that just did not go well for her, and she tried to kill herself on the phone with me. And she went to go jump in front of a train, and she slipped and fell, and she didn't get to jump, but I thought she had just...
She was on the phone with you?
Yeah, she called me.
Jumping in front of a train?
Yeah. And she had been drink. She never drinks, and she had drank because she was stressed out because it was the day before I moved to college for the first time ever. And but we can talk about those things now and like laugh about it. And just it's the most healing thing in the world.
Laughing about tragedy.
Laughing about pain makes me so happy. I mean, obviously everyone has to be ready to laugh at it, but we're always ready to laugh.
Laugh at the pain.
Yeah, I love handling stuff that way. It makes me so happy and it just feels so healing.
It's like it's more than an anesthesia, it's healing.
Oh, yeah, it's so healing.
Yeah.
It's better than anything I can think of.
So now the image of your mom jumping in front of the train, you could laugh at.
Not necessarily laugh at that, but like her and I can talk about it and like she's almost died so many times just from like medical mishaps and stuff like that. Like one time a guy from a crazy asylum like escaped in our neighborhood. It's a very nice neighborhood and it was snowing and he was naked and he bled all over my parents' back deck and they let the dog out and they didn't even see the blood. They just kind of let the dog out to go pee and a cop showed up at their door and explained to them what happened and there was all this blood on the back of their deck and my dad goes, well, at least the guy didn't have AIDS. And the officer goes, well, actually, that's why we're here. He did. And I go to my mom, like, how crazy would it be if that's how you died? Like the dog got the homeless guy's AIDS into you and that's how you died. Like, that would be hilarious. And we were all laughing about that.
You said from a crazy asylum? He was
like a mental asylum. But but it wasn't it was for homeless, mentally ill, a variety of things in our neighborhood.
You know, another thing that comes across from both of you is how loving you both are.
Oh, really? That's the first time anyone's ever said that to me.
Oh, my God.
I get that all the time.
Oh, my God. Both of you. You want to come across like you're some hard-bitten cynic, which you...
No, I mean, actually, I don't really. It's kind of just like at a certain point, you're like, oh, well, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah. What you're doing is very loving. I mean, you're opening things up for people.
I don't want people
both very caring.
I don't want people to suck around me. It's purely for my benefit. I don't want to live in a world where everyone sucks. Because the thing is, like,
okay, you're a selfish prick.
Well, the thing is, it's like
a bit of both.
I think it's really important. Like, everyone's just like, oh, go out and help other people. But no, like, I think it's very important the same way as if you're on an airplane and the airplane's going down and the mask drops, they say put the mask on yourself before you start putting the mask on others, even kids.
Exactly.
That's what life is. You have to make sure you are the best person you can be before you start helping other people, because helping other people sometimes is just avoiding your own shit.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, am I super self-centered? Absolutely. Am I selfish? No. And those are two different things, I think. Like, I want to help other people, but not before I'm done being the best Corinne I can be.
So true.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they're writing in stuff. I'm just like, yo, worry about yourself first. And if we're all worrying about ourselves, we're all taken care of. Yeah. That's mathematically.
So your advice to listeners is worry about yourself.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Just put out the best product into the world that you can. And then once you have a lot of headway on that, then you can start working on other people. If you're a good person, your spouse is going to be happier. You're going to have kids that are going to be better as you raise them because they have this wonderful person to look up to. Like, it's all related.
And you're in a unique position because you have talked to all these men that you've fucked. And what have you learned? What have you...
About myself?
And about them.
Oh, man.
And about life.
Well, with life, I've learned the most from the emails that we get. Just like I feel like we have this very unique barometer of how the world feels about their own sexuality. And a lot of it is they weren't comfortable at first and then they started listening and then they were comfortable no matter what happened. Like a kid called them fat in the 8th grade or they were raped by their uncle. Like it's like people.
It's always something.
It's always something big and small, and everyone truly does have their own version of tragedy. Like everyone's got their own 9/11.
Yeah,
and it's like the seriousness that you treat it.
So some early event that shamed them, that scared them, that traumatized them.
Or something that they hold to, like, this happened to me, and this is. Like, they just put weight on it.
So it's not something joyful. It's not like the first time I masturbated. It was so much fun.
They have that too. But I think that they just have their own versions of what is a problem in their life. Like, what is – so it really just helps listening to other people who've been through some really tough shit, honestly. And it just teaches me that we're all more similar than we think and that most things can be solved by just communicating honestly. Just – opening up and pouring your heart out.
And why do you think we are so secretive around sex?
Oh God, there's a million reasons.
Afraid of getting hurt.
Yeah.
Shame. Obviously, shame is a huge one.
Yeah, because it makes you. Sex makes you. You are bare, and then you also feel bare. So it's
very vulnerable.
It's an actual physical and emotional vulnerability, and it's kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gross. Like, sex is kind of gross when you think about it. Like, it's gross. I mean, there's so many things, like, we have done a lot of work to, like, prevent things like STDs and pregnancy, but I think in the process of doing that, we've also put a lot of fear and shame around sex. So it's like, yeah, we don't want a bunch of 14-year-olds walking around pregnant, but we also don't want a bunch of 14-year-olds walking around thinking that they're going to be a bad person when they have sex, that they're going to be less valuable when they have sex, that they're going to be disgusting when they have sex. Those are all really, really bad things. So I think there has to be a way to talk about sex, but to make it safe and enjoyable. There's other countries. I think, was it Sweden that starts sex education at like age 5?
Oh, yeah.
Just like little conversations about it. So instead of waiting until, you're 12, 13, you were already probably exploring in some way. You've already playing spin the bottle, touch someone's vagina or penis, and even if it was kind of like in a silly way, you bottled it up for 12, 13 years, and then you're just like, oh, let's talk about it now when it's too late. And you've already been
already neurotic.
Your mind's already been clouded by media, your parents, your friends. And friends also are so misinformed.
Yes.
So you have all this bad, wrong information.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I mean, like, I was in a pool in, 9th grade probably, sitting on a guy's lap because we were flirting, and I was like, well, I'm pregnant now.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I thought I would get pregnant from masturbating when I was a kid, and I was like, the day's gonna come where I just have to tell my mom I'm pregnant, and it's gonna be really scary. But guess that's what I have to do.
Someone had told you that
no, I don't know where I got that from. I really don't.
Came to you.
Just came to me, and
no pun intended. Right?
Yeah, it literally came to me. And
good wine.
The fact that there's no laws about the sex education being taught in the United States in public schools, that the facts even have to be accurate, is crazy. Like a school can choose to do abstinence only education, which is like, you're never gonna stop kids from having sex if they want to have sex. It's like, yeah, the way that that we go about teaching children about it is so crazy to me.
It's scare tactics. It's like
it's control, and that's where religion, I think, too, comes in. Of like, it's all control.
Yeah,
with sexuality in particular.
And sending out messages of shame and fear and I'm a bad person.
And you could tell a kid, like, you're a bad person. God's going to hate you if you masturbate. That poor freaking kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
he's not going to not masturbate, but then he's like, well, God hates me now, and he's going to hate himself. Like,
and then he associates this bad feeling with something that could be
great.
So pleasurable. And it's like, yeah, you need to masturbate. Otherwise, you have it all pent up, and then you go do something weird to some woman on the street.
Right.
You're a jerk to Susie.
And we don't like that.
Oh, we do not. No.
No, it's amazing. We take something that's free, that's fun, that's good for you, and turn it into a sin or turn it into a shameful act.
Right.
Well, when people can't be happy about their own sexuality and accepting, then they project that onto others. And those are the homophobic people. And those are the people that think that women shouldn't choose what to do with their own body.
Yeah, it's always the politician who gets a blowjob from a transgender prostitute who's the
bathroom bill signer.
Who's like, no people with any genitalia are allowed in this restroom.
It's to the point
only
where
Ken dolls.
I assume that if you're like anti anybody using the bathroom, like, yeah, you're getting handies from trans people.
Yeah, trans people can't come in the bathroom because you're getting fucked in the bathroom.
Yeah, you want to lock it so no one comes in.
You
asshole. But like the tale as old as time of the senator, that's the two people that were trying to impeach Bill Clinton for getting a blowjob in the Oval Office. They were both having affairs at that time. I'm like,
it's just deflection.
Just projecting.
Is that true? I didn't know that. Really,
it is true. And I learned that, and I was like, I am going to carry this fact with me everywhere I go. It is in my suitcase forever.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's such hypocrisy.
Oh, my God. And with politics, I associate those two words.
Yeah. Well, you're anything but hypocrites. I could talk to you all afternoon. You really are wonderfully refreshing. And I think what you're doing is so much bigger than, just talking about sex. I think you're really trying to set people free from sort of mind-forged manacles, the prisons we put ourselves in.
Man, you have written books. You're so eloquent with words.
I know. I was like, tell me more.
Yeah, can we write that as a quote? Or...
Is that a magnet? Is there a gift shop in the studio?
It's actually William Blake wrote those words in his poem London. But it's true. The way we imprison ourselves, and you're wonderfully popular. I'm so glad it's popular because your message is so wholesome. Contrary to say, oh, that's salacious.
Contrary to the title.
Yeah, no, it's so wholesome. You're basically saying sex is good, sex is healthy. Don't be a hypocrite, don't be ashamed. Don't walk around, with these secrets tormenting yourself. If you're thinking it, other people are thinking it. And if you want to do it, you'll find someone else who wants to do it. And as long as you both agree to do it, why not?
Do it.
Exactly. And enjoy it. More than just do it. And enjoy it and take off the cloak of shame that you got. And I can't praise you highly enough. And you had the guts, the ovaries, if you will, to put yourself out there and take the big chance. And you're enlightening people. You're making us laugh. It's just such a breath of fresh air what you're doing. The truth and genuineness and honesty and. I love you both. I think it's fantastic what you're doing.
And, thanks,
Doc. I was like, are those girls coming in? I would like to talk to them.
Yeah, I want to be their friends.
Wow.
I did have a panic attack after the first press article because I was like, oh, shit, people are going to hear this.
Secrets out.
Now, if listeners want to catch your podcast, how do they find you?
They can go on iTunes. They can go on SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify.
Yeah,
just look up Guys We Fucked in the search field of all those things.
Okay.
And then our comedy duo is called Sorry About Last Night. So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, sorryaboutlastnightcomedy.com.
Yeah, we have a website now.
Our beautiful website.
Sorryaboutlasnight.com?
Yes.
Sorryaboutlasnightcomedy.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I was already taken. We're like, screw you.
Sorryaboutlasnightcomedy.com. Yes.
Well, Krystyna Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And Corinne Fisher.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Nailed it. You did a great job.
My aging brain. You are both awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. And thanks for the panini.
Oh, and chips and fruit.
Yeah, we'll do anything for a sandwich. Free food. Maybe shouldn't publicize that.
Yeah, but whatever. You don't have to edit that out. We said it.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
If you have an issue, a question, or a suggestion, call us toll-free at 844-55-CONNECT or email at connect@distractionpodcast.com or go to our website at distractionpodcast.com. To hear more mini and full-length episodes, subscribe to Distraction on iTunes. And thanks so much for listening. Distraction is produced by Collisions, the podcast division of CRN International. Collisions, podcasts for curious people.